Cantamos. Irmãos e irmãs, estamos prestes a receber o Santo Padre, o Papa Francisco, que se faz peregrino de Nossa Senhora do Rosário de Fátima. Como aqui disse, em 2017 temos mãe.
Laudetur Jesus Christus, praise be Jesus Christ. On behalf of Vatican Media, I would like to welcome all of you joining us for this live broadcast of the continuing apostolic visit of Pope Francis in Lisbon, Portugal. My name is Father Paul Samasumo, and I'm honored to bring you the commentary and translation of this. As those of you who are following us on television can see, and those on radio can hear, this morning Pope Francis is starting his day with a visit to Fatima, the shrine of Fatima, which is about 120 kilometers from the capital, Lisbon. Pope Francis decided that while in Portugal, he would like to visit the shrine of Fatima. This morning, as we can see, he has already arrived, and he will be in the little chapel of the apparitions, where he will lead us in praying the Holy Rosary, but especially for the 100 young people who will be here with him. They are people living with disabilities, some of them are sick, and there will also be a small number of prisoners, mostly local juvenile offenders. So it is a rather select and special crowd here this morning. I'm sure they will just be as excited to see Pope Francis as he will be to see them, and they'll look forward to be consoled by the Holy Father in their suffering. Pope Francis has come to meet them here, and because of their situation, these young people could not be, because of their situation, obviously they are not able to attend World Youth Day events in Lisbon. If you are joining us on our various Vatican social media channels, welcome. Welcome to our partners, television and radio broadcasters of EWTN TV, Salt and Light TV, Shalom World Television Networks USA, Shalom TV India and Sunday Shalom, Atmadarshan TV India, Catholic Faith Network, Catholic TV, Uganda Catholic Television, Radio Maria Lithuania, Radio Maria Papua New Guinea. To all the various diocesan radio stations, our listeners of shortwave radio, those of you following us through our various social media channels, welcome. So glad indeed that you could be with us this morning to join Pope Francis here in this special shrine of Fatima. Remember, you always find more detailed information on our website, vaticannews.va. Pope Francis arrived this morning by helicopter, and he was welcomed by the Bishop of Lieria Fatima and the Mayor of the city. On your screens now is the shrine and the thousands that are here to see Pope Francis. Pope Francis still making his rounds around the crowd here of the Basilica, greeting them, and an air of excitement. So the Holy Father is in Portugal for the World Youth Day, but also since he's already here in Portugal, he took time off to come to the shrine of Fatima. At the same time, it's also an apostolic visit to Portugal. Fatima has a population of 13,000 people. It's a small city, and as I said earlier on, it is located 120 kilometers north of the capital, Lisbon. And this little city of Fatima is linked to the Virgin Mary's apparitions. You will recall the three little children, shepherd children, Lucia, who was 10 years old, Francisco, 9 years old, and their little sister Jacinta, 7 years old at the time. This was in the year 1917. Our Lady appeared on the site where the basilica is today. What is known today as Cover the area. As the children were playing in this area, they saw a sudden flash of lightning that surprised them. And they were so surprised that they began to gather the flock so that they could return home for fear that it would rain. Sister Lucia became a saint, or rather is on a path to sainthood much later. The other two were canonized by Pope Francis in 2017. Pope Francis having a moment with children there. His Pope Mobile has stopped and he's blessing them and listening to some of them. Interesting, giving them rosaries with their parents. A very special outing for everyone here in Fatima today. I was just telling the story of Fatima. As the children were playing, there was this lightning that they saw, and it made them want to go back home because they thought it would rain anytime. The basilica was built in 1928. Inside the basilica is a separate chapel. In the separate chapels are buried Francisco, Jacinta, and Lucia. In 1989, the heroic virtues of Francisco and Jacinta were proclaimed, and the two were beatified on the 13th of May 2000. They were canonized on 13th May 2017 when Pope Francis was here in Fatima. Today, the Basilica of Our Lady of the Rosary stands on the site where the apparitions took place. There is also the statue of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, which is located in the niche of the bell tower. Hopefully, eventually, we'll get to see it. It is the work of an American priest and a sculptor called Thomas McGlynn. The statue was sculpted following instructions that he got from Sister Lucia or Sister Lucy. More than 1,000 media professionals representing at least 95 media houses are here from about 26 countries. They have been accredited to cover Pope Francis's visit to Fatima today. Later in the day, Pope Francis, after this visit, will return to Lisbon to continue with some of his World Youth Day engagements. I said this is the second time Pope Francis has come to Lisbon. 6 years ago, visiting the shrine of Fatima, Pope Francis reaffirmed and described himself as a pilgrim of hope, and during the visit, he proclaimed Francisco and Jacinta the new saints of the Church. More babies being brought to greet Pope Francis and also specifically to receive a blessing from him. And now we are seeing here a very beautiful panoramic view of the Basilica. There is a strong connection between the shrine of Fatima, dedicated to the Blessed Virgin Mary, and Pope Francis. We know that Pope Francis has a strong devotion to Our Lady. Right at the start of his pontificate, Pope Francis consecrated his ministry to Our Lady of Fatima. This was done on May 2013. And recently, Pope Francis consecrated Russia and Ukraine to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. The Pope accomplished this while being in Rome, but he sent Cardinal Karieski to Fatima to make the consecration on his behalf. So Pope Francis is in fact returning to this shrine that has marked his pontificate and has marked him deeply. In the background there, you can hear the popular anthem of Fatima, the Marian anthem. In these days of World Youth Day, Pope Francis has been inviting young people to look to the future with hope, and also he has been trying to respond to some of their worries and their anxieties. The Pope wants to pray here at the shrine of Fatima. He's going to lead the rosary in the little chapel of the apparitions. For Pope Francis coming to the chapel of the apparitions, he's coming to visit the Mother. And I think that's how it should be for all of us when we visit a Marian shrine. We can imagine that Pope Francis will present to the Blessed Virgin Mother his intentions for the whole world, the great intentions that he carries in his heart. Surely among them will be the intention of peace. He's going to pray for peace, especially for peace in Ukraine and for Russia. And most likely another intention that he will be bringing will be to pray for the young people who are gathered here in Portugal. They are coming from all over the world. The young people are at the heart of Pope Francis. They are the future of the Church of tomorrow, and in many ways, the future of the Church today. So these are some of the intentions that Pope Francis will be bringing, I am sure. Probably, who knows, maybe also the Synod. This is something that has been at the heart of Pope Francis this year. In October, various people, the church hierarchy, and also the many lay people as well will be participating in the Synod, and I think it's only fair to think that he is going to bring this to Our Lady. Big crowd here turned up to greet Pope Francis, and he has taken time to go around to greet them and confirm them in their faith. It is a special place. It is Fatima, the Marian Shrine of Fatima. And a very, very thoughtful gesture of Pope Francis here by coming to meet and to pray with the many disabled young people living with disabilities. They would have loved to be in Lisbon, but he is going to be here with him. And in the background there, you can hear the anthem of Fatima, the Ave Maria, as Pope Francis makes his way to the little chapel of the apparitions. Many people we are seeing in the crowds who are really touched and very emotional to be with Pope Francis. And as you know, in the church, the first Saturday of the month is always a special day for Marian prayers in the church. We also recall that Pope St. John Paul II had a very special place in his heart for Fatima. And you recall that Pope St. John Paul II, he believed he was saved when he was shot in the square of the Basilica of St. Peter. He brought the bullets and he has consigned them to the Virgin Mary. The bullets that missed his heart, Pope John Paul II brought them back here as a sign of gratitude to the Virgin who saved his life. So it is a shrine that has been really special in the hearts of many popes, but not only the popes, but many people also in the world. And it's interesting that in 1917, most of Europe was at war. This was the time of the First World War. And so this place has always been linked in many ways to pleas and need for peace. Many popes have invoked Our Lady, asking her for peace, especially in the First and in the Second World War. Pope Paul VI was the first as a pope to visit this shrine. And it was not an easy time when Pope Paul VI visited. At the time, Portugal was under a dictatorship, but still he came and he prayed for peace in this shrine. And in that visit, Pope Paul VI reminded the world to think of peace and not to make projects of war. Many people here are personally touched, as you can see from your screens, as they are in tears and hugging each other. It is a very emotional moment and very solemn moment, this visit. I think so fitting that Pope Francis is here to greet and to pray at this shrine. Pope Francis has now arrived and he'll be making his way. He's received a bouquet there, and this is the bouquet that he's going to lay at the statue, at the feet of the statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary. We see also that there are many pilgrims who have come with their own statues, and Pope Francis is going to bless the statues. Pope Francis now making his way on the wheelchair to the little chapel of apparitions where he will lead the rosary. The Holy Father will lay the flowers at the feet of these white roses at the feet of the Blessed Virgin Mary. A very special moment for him also, in many ways. He has a very special attachment to this shrine, to the Pope. He arrived and he makes a special stop there in silence to pray, and the children bring him also these more flowers that are being placed at the feet of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The Pope's sitting in contemplation before the statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary. He is in prayer. Here in the screen we have this special image, the statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary, as Pope Francis is praying in silence before the statue. The Holy Father has also brought bringing with him a very special gift for this church. Just in case you are just joining us, my name is Father Paul Samasumo, and this morning Pope Francis is in Fatima for a special visit to the shrine of Our Lady, where he will lead the rosary together with 100 young people living with disabilities, a small number of prisoners also, mostly young people, young juvenile offenders. So if you're joining us on our various social media channels, welcome. Welcome to our partner television and radio broadcasters of EWTN TV, Salt and Light TV, Shalom World Television Networks USA, Shalom TV India and Sunday Shalom, Atmadashan TV India Catholic Faith Network, Catholic TV, Uganda Catholic Televisions, Radio Maria Lithuania, Radio Maria Papua New Guinea. To all the various diocesan radio stations, all our listeners of shortwave, those of you following us through our various social media channels, welcome. So glad that you could be with Pope Francis here in Fatima. And as we always say, remember you can always find more detailed information on our website, vaticannews.va. Very, very solemn moment here in Fatima as Pope Francis prays in silence before the statue of Our Lady. The Holy Father arrived from Lisbon this morning. He was welcomed by the Bishop of Lieria Fatima, Jose Onelas Cavallo, who is also President of the Portuguese Episcopal Conference, as well as the mayor of the city of Fatima. Fatima is a small town with only 13,000 inhabitants, but it is special in the heart of many Catholics because of the apparitions of the Virgin Mary to 3 shepherd little children, Lucia, Francisco, and their little sister Jacinta, who was only 7 years at the time. Pope Francis being helped on his feet, and he brings a very special gift which he is going to lay before Our Lady. This is a golden rosary that the Holy Father has brought. On his feet now, he is blessing the rosary of the golden rosary at the feet of our Blessed Mother. Very touching moment indeed. I did say at the beginning that Pope Francis has this strong connection with this place of Fatima. He dedicated his pontificate at the start of his ministry to Our Lady. And now begin the rosary. Brothers and sisters, pray a lot was the recommendation that the angel and Our Lady made to the little shepherds. Gathered here as a praying church, united in a special way to the Holy Father, Pope Francis, and his intentions, we will pray the rosary, meditating on the joyful mysteries. The first mystery, the joyful mystery, the Annunciation of the angel to Mary. The angel said to her, Mary, do not be afraid, for you have found favor with God. You will conceive in your womb and bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus. Let us pray for young prisoners, that with Mary's help they may feel the tenderness of God, the Father, in their lives, and live in trust in their lives, and live in the confidence that He shall never abandon them. So we have just started the Holy Rosary that Pope Francis here in the little apparition chapel, the little chapel of apparitions. Pope Francis taking time to pray with the disabled, a few prisoners as well. Recitation of the Rosary, the Hail Mary, in Portuguese.
Seja feita a vossa vontade, assim na terra como no céu. Assim como nós perdoamos a quem nos tem ofendido, e não nos deixeis cair em tentação, mas livrai-nos do mal.
Wherever you are, hopefully you can join praying the Hail Mary in your language.
Bendita sois vós entre as mulheres, bendito é o fruto do vosso ventre, Jesus. Santa Ave Maria, cheia de graça, o Senhor é convosco. Bendita sois vós entre as mulheres, bendito é o fruto do vosso ventre, Jesus. Ave Maria, cheia de graça, o Senhor é convosco. Bendita sois vós entre as mulheres, bendito é o fruto do vosso ventre, Jesus. Ave Maria, cheia de graça, Senhor é convosco. Bendita sois vós entre as mulheres. Bendito é o fruto do vosso ventre, Jesus.
Santa Maria, Mãe de Deus, rogai por nós, pecadores, agora